Assalamualaikum and hi. I'm the first presenter for software project presentation and our group have 4 members, which is me, Hanim Nabila, Shafiqa Liana, Ashiki Nasira and Shahinda. Our group chose translate apps from Apple to be tested. This is the topics that we will be present on this presentation. In today's connected world, breaking communication barriers is more important than ever. Translation app is a universal translator designed to make communication seamless. This app supports a wide range of languages, including English, Japanese, Arabic, and many more. It doesn't stop at translating text. It also interprets image and facilitates real-time conversations. Whether you are traveling, working, or simply chatting, this app is a perfect companion. With features like a built-in microphone for instant speech translation and the ability to save translation for later, it's an all-in-one tool to overcome language barriers effortlessly. For objective, we will walk through the key features we will be testing for the translation app. This includes testing for translation accuracy, speech-to-text functionality, camera-based translations, offline features, user interface usability, real-time conversation translation, and overall app performance. We will start with the text translation features. Our goal is to ensure that the app delivers precise translation for basic phrases, idioms, and large blocks of text across all supported language. We will also confirm that the translation preserves the original context and adhere to proper grammar, making sure that users receive accurate and meaningful translations. Moving on to camera-based translations. We will verify the accuracy of translation for printed text, stylized text, and text capture under different lighting conditions. Next, we will focus on speech-to-text and text-to-speech functionality. Speech-to-text, we will assess the app's ability to accurately recognize speech inputs in various languages. Text-to-speech, we will confirm that pronunciation of the translate text is clear, natural, and appropriate in all supported language. Offline translation is another important feature. We will ensure that users can continue to translate text even when they don't have an internet connection, relying on pre-downloaded language packs. We will also test that the app informs users when offline translation is not supported for certain features or languages. Next, we will test real-time conversation translation. The app should be able to facilitate seamless multilingual conversation in real time. We will assess translation speed and accuracy during live interactions and verify that error messages are displayed clearly for unsupported languages for invalid inputs. We will also test how the app handles edge cases such as simultaneous inputs or overly long text. Moving on to user interface and usability, we will confirm that the app's UI is consistent and intuitive across different devices. We will ensure that buttons, drop-downs, and input fields are all functional and responsive, so users can easily navigate and interact with the app. Error handling and edge cases is a critical area to ensure a smooth user experience. We will test how the app responds to unexpected user behavior, such as invalid inputs or simultaneous interactions, ensuring it provides clear feedback when needed. Next, we will conduct a performance evaluation to assess the app's responsiveness during high usage scenarios and prolonged activity. We will also evaluate battery consumption to ensure efficient resource utilization during extended use. Moving to safe management, we will verify that translation can be saved and retrieved accurately. We will also confirm that the safe translation feature works consistently across different devices and sessions, providing a seamless experience for users who need to refer back to previous translations. In scope features of our translation system and the testing process, we will be following to ensure its functionality. We have a few core features to focus on. Let's start with the core features of the translation system that we will be testing. First, text translation. This feature allows us to translate individual words, phrases, and paragraphs between different languages. We will test for accuracy and speed. Second, Image translation. This feature captures text from images and translates it into the selected language. It's essential that the system works with various image formats and recognizes text correctly. 4. Conversation mode. This feature enables multilingual conversation between users. We will test how smoothly the conversation flow is and how quickly the system responds. Lastly, save and history. This allows users to save and retrieve their past translations. It's important to ensure that all translations are accurately stored and can be accessed easily by the user. Now, let's discuss the features that are out of scope. First, login functionality or user account features. The app currently operates without user authentication, meaning there are no login or user account features to test. We won't be testing any user-specific features like account creation or login or logout process in this space. Second, stress testing for performance under extreme user loads. Although performance is important, stress testing for extreme user load is not part of our testing process right now. We will focus on standard performance metric but won't simulate peak usage scenarios to test the system's limits. Third, testing experimental features in development or beta stage. We will not be testing any experimental features that are still in development or in beta stage. These features are not fully implemented yet and will be tested in a future phase when they are more stable.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'll be explaining our testing approach for our translation application. So for its functionalities, first we will test basic text translations like simple phrases or sentences such as good morning. And next, we evaluate idiomatic expressions to see if the app understands our idiomatic expressions. For larger type blocks like paragraph, we will ensure its accuracy and its consistency. Offline translations will also be tested using pre-downloaded languages. And for voice recognition and translation, we will test both real-time voice translation and pronunciation accuracy. Next is for camera-based translations, we will check how the app handles printed text, stylized fonts, and challenging lighting conditions. And then we will validate error handling for invalid inputs and excessively long text. So for safe translation, we will see whether it can save our favorite translations, and also we will be testing whether we can access our safe translations. And lastly, we will be testing its supported language. For next functionalities, we will be testing its user interface elements. The user interface should be intuitive. We will test the functionality of key elements like language selection drop-down, input text field, translate button, clear button, camera translation interface, save translation screens, and its settings menu. We will ensure that the setting menus and save translation screen work seamlessly. Next, I'll be explaining features to be tested. For functionality, we will test translation accuracy for various languages and scenarios, including speech to text in both quiet and noisy environments. Text-to-speech clarity will be evaluated to ensure correct pronunciation across languages. Offline translations will be verified for pre-downloaded language packs. Camera-based translation should accurately read printed text and handle stylized fonts. Next, on the user interface side, we will check if all buttons, drop-downs, and fields work as intended. We will also ensure the layout is responsive across devices like phones and tablets. For error handling, we will verify that the app provides clear messages for unsupported language or invalid inputs. On this slide, I'll be explaining our testing approach, how we test our application. So we use manual testing. We perform manual testing by interacting directly with the application interface and verifying its behavior against expected results. So For designing our test cases, we use we try use different kind of technique design. For the first one is using equivalent partitioning. We test a wide range of input types. For instance, valid phrases, as you can see on the picture on the right side, in TC1, and idiomatic expressions in test cases 3. For camera translations, we will test clear printed text in test cases 8 and more challenging stylized fonts in test cases 9. So for the next test cases technique design, we use boundary value analysis because it helps us in test text length limits. For example, if you can see the picture on the right side, test cases 4 ensures proper handling of text from 1 to 255 characters and beyond. For our last technique design, which is decision table testing, it can evaluate how the app behaves in different conditions such as online and offline modes with valid or invalid input, as seen in test cases 1 and test cases 2 in my picture on my right side. So, for example scenarios, if a user enters that exceeding 255 characters, the app should handle it gracefully as tested in test cases 4. For test cases 6, voice input in a noisy environment should show reduced accuracy or provide an error message. For test cases 10, camera translation in a low light conditions may show reduced accuracy, but good lighting should produce accurate translations.
Hello, so now let's take a look on the test environment. So test environment is divided into 3 parts, which is software environment, hardware requirement, and testing tools. So for software environment, we are using a translate apps, which is the latest version. And since our team members have an iPhone, which is iPhone 11, 13, and 14, and our iOS version are 17 and 18.1. So the testing tool is actually manually execution and bug tracking tools using Jira. Okay, so for test cases, we have 16 test cases. Okay, so for the first cases, we are looking for the basic first translation. And the expected result was display shows Buenos Dias. So as you can see on the slide, the first one is pass, which is it shows the expected result that we wanted, and the second cases was offline mode translation. So for this one, it's actually failed because we can't using a translation without a Wi-Fi connection. So if you're using it without a Wi-Fi connection, then it will show the same as the expected output there. And for the test cases 3, we using idiomatic expression translation, and at this also is failed. It's not showing what we wanted. Like we are supposed to have a good luck translation, but it was patahkan kaki in bahasa. Cases 4, 5, 6, and 7, all of these are showing the past result, like what we are expected. So let's take a look at one point, which is number 4. We are looking for the large text translation. At this point, the text that we are using at translation, it will display like what we wanted. And number 5 is voice recognition and translation. So at this app, even though we are using our voices, it still can detect our voice, and it can translate what we wanted, maybe in Chinese or Indian. So everything it's using the translate. And for the number 6 is real-time voice under noisy, and this one also pass like what we wanted. Test cases 8, we are looking forward to printed text translation. Okay, so one of my team members are showing words at her laptop, so we are taking a photo of that, and it can translate it using that picture. And then we have the stylus text translation. Stylus translation is actually even though it was like a style symbol or maybe engrave, it can still translate like what we want. And then number 10 is low or high light and distorted image translation. So at this point, even though the picture is in a low specific light, and then it will still display and translate. For number 12, 13, 14, and 15, all of these are showing like what expected result, like translate all language accurately, or safe translation appears in safe list and consistent layout and across device. But for number 16, it shows a failed result. Like we expect it to be like having an appropriate error message, but at the translation app, it doesn't show like what we want. It shows the symbol, like the inserted symbol, which shows at the display part.
For bug reporting tool, we use Jira software. Jira software is used for efficient management and tracking of software issues in the Translate application. Jira software provides detailed bug reports with descriptions, screenshots, and priorities. It is also trusted by millions of users worldwide for bug tracking and project management. And in Jira software, bugs are categorized by status, type, and priority for better tracking and resolution. Next is bug logging. Translate app doesn't update translation when switching to a new target language. Steps to reproduce this is, the first step is to open the Translate app on an iPhone and then enter Good Morning as the input text and set the target language to Mandarin and observe that the translation is correct. And then change the target language to Spanish and observe that the translation is correct. And the last step is to change the target language to French. The observed result, as you can see in the picture, the translation remains the same instead of updating to the French translation. The expected result should be the app should update the display to correct French translation for Good Morning. The second bug is incomplete translation. Good Morning is translated to G instead of full text in French. Steps to produce this is to open the Translate app on an iPhone and enter Good Night as the input text, and then set the target language to French. The observed result is the app returns G as the translation for Good Night. The expected result should return the correct French translation for Good Night. The third bug is the Translate app does not provide an error message or appropriate feedback when attempting to translate an unsupported language. How to produce this? First, open the Translate app on an iPhone and enter awak buat apa, a Malay sentence as the input text, and then set the target language to French, and then observe the translation result. As you can see in the picture, the result returns is the input text unchanged, when the expected result should be an error message since it does not support Malay language. The fourth bug is the Translate app fails to update the input and translation fails correctly when switching language. How to reproduce this? First, open the Translate app on an iPhone and enter Como estas in the Spanish input field. Then the app correctly translates it to German, and then click the switch button to swap between the source and the target language. As you can see in the picture, the observed result is the language option switch. As we can see in the picture, the observed result is the input text remains in the input field even though the source language is now German. The translation field, which initially showed in German, now show Como estas in Spanish instead of showing the correct translation back in Spanish. When the expected result should be the input text should switch to the translated text in the new source language, and then the translation should be updated to reflect the correct translation from the newly selected source text. Next is test closure activity, consolidated findings and insights. First is core functionality stability. All essential features perform reliably, ensuring user satisfaction. Second is translation accuracy. While generally robust, regional dialects and idiomatic expressions require enhancement. Last is performance insights. Slight API delays were noted in specific language pairs, suggesting optimization opportunities.